Good evening. My name is Robert Begley, and welcome to The Voice of Reason. This program can be seen every other Thursday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. on Channel 34. Throughout the ages, there have been men and women who have taken first steps down new roads, armed with nothing but their own vision. From Aristotle to Ayn Rand, from Da Vinci to Montessori, from Galileo to Isaac Newton, Thomas Jefferson to Thomas Edison, from Henry Ford to Neil Peart. Each of these and a handful of others have demonstrated the voice of reason. The purpose of this program is to show the role of reason in human life. We'll cover a wide range of subjects, from music, dance, philosophy, poetry, to business, public speaking, and education. What are you not going to see on this program? Scandals about celebrities, sermons from the Mount, astrology readings, or any portrayal of human beings as puppets dangling on the strings of self-sacrifice, misery, and failure. You can turn the channel to just about any other program if you want to see that, but here we'll focus on that one attribute that distinguishes humans from everyone else. Reason, that faculty that identifies sense perception by means of logic. Reason, the cause of the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, and the birth of this country. Reason, the root of all scientific, medical, technological progress. Why? Because here we believe that a little reason goes a long way. Tonight's program will focus on a group of individuals who have been more responsible for America's tremendous standard of living than anyone else. These individuals consist of men and women who are black or white, young and old, rich and poor. Unfortunately, they have been the victim of particularly savage attacks. The group I'm talking about are the American businessmen. Now, if you look at the culture, the attacks on businessmen are rampant. For instance, in the media, anytime a story is portrayed about businessmen, it's sensationalized. For instance, Leona Helmsley or Michael Milken. The government coerces businessmen to act against their own will. For instance, Bill Gates. The universities, under the direction of Karl Marx, preach that businessmen are exploitators. And as I say, the evidence is all around us. So some of the issues we're going to talk about tonight are the differences. Are businessmen really that evil? Or are they the beneficiaries of our society? Are they the atlases who carry the world on their shoulder? My guest tonight is the president of the Association of Objectivist Businessmen. He is a member of the National Speakers Association, and he is also the president of his own company called the Capitalist Leadership Group. I'd like to welcome to the program Ken West.
Glad to
Hi,
be
Ken.
here, Bob.
Nice to be here. Okay, Ken, first question I'd like to ask is, I portrayed a difference between businessmen and what I believe they are, the great producers of wealth, and what popular culture believes they are. Now, why is there a clash in these views?
Well, I think it's a basic misunderstanding of what businessmen and women do. Basically, they create value. They're not, a lot of what you see in the movies and books is based on a false view of economics and philosophy. It's one person's benefit is from other people's loss.
Right.
And business is the total opposite of that. Business people create value. They create wealth, and they trade their efforts for the best efforts of people everywhere.
Now, Ayn Rand once said that we live in an age of envy. Do you think this might this might have something to do with
Sure
why
it does.
people view them that way? Because they're successful, and therefore people are jealous or envious of businessmen?
Perhaps. I don't think the average person looks down their nose at someone who's successful, but they hear so many derogatory remarks. They hear about all the scoundrels of the world.
Right.
I don't think that it's a matter of
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a misunderstanding of people.
More of a misconception or just an improper portrayal in the sense that that's all you see around you, and maybe the public at large are just going by what they see. You know, businessmen as murderers in films and.
Well, all they see, of course, every movie. I don't know if you've noticed. I watch a lot of movies, TV, and inevitably, the successful business person has a skeleton in the closet. They are scoundrels. They've got their wealth somewhere way, way back in some original crime that they committed, and the family has been wealthy ever since.
Right.
So a constant diet of that, it's no wonder that people have some
That's all they
apprehensions
think
about business people.
Yeah.
The thing is, the way the new economy is going is almost everyone to survive in this economy is going to have to be a business person.
That's right.
You know, how else can you survive?
That's right. Yeah, the one thing, going back to the movies, I feel like the two movies come to mind immediately where the businessman is a legitimate hero.
Yes.
Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School, oddly enough, and Michael J. Fox in Secret of My Success. They're both moral characters who you actually saw solving problems, because businessmen, the way they're portrayed in films, you always see them spending money.
Yeah.
It's as if money has no source, no root. But instead of spending the money, you see them solving problems and, in effect, creating wealth. And that's something that, do you want to add something to that?
Well, I think fundamentally, any business person, when they start off, they have an idea. It may be an idea for an invention. It may be an idea for opening a bagel shop.
Right.
Whatever the idea is, they're the ones that decide they want to implement this idea, and they have to, one of the ways that they do that is this country allows us to accumulate capital.
Right.
A person may have sources of funding from their own finances, from relatives, from banks.
Right.
And they take their idea, they bring it to the marketplace, they negotiate with other people if they need workers, they test it out in the marketplace.
Right.
And they can either fail or they can succeed. If they fail, they start over again.
Right.
Their loss is no one else's loss.
Right.
If they succeed, then they can take their profit and reinvest it and continue to go.
Yeah, I guess one of my questions for the viewers would be something like, how many businessmen do they know personally reflect the ones that we see in the newspapers and in film? But now I'd like to talk about the issue, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
He's up against this antitrust issue right now. Why is that happening? Is it because, again, he is successful?
Well, Bill Gates got too successful. And what I mean by that is he is a prime target. The antitrust laws are a series of non-objective laws that are based on a false premise of perfect competition. They think the idea that there can be total perfect competition where everyone has the same amount of information, everyone has the same chance, it flies in the face of reality. Gates built up something 10 years ago. There was no Microsoft. And he's become very successful, very fast. And the antitrust, the Justice Department, and other people have chosen him as a prime target.
Right.
Whether it's from envy or from who knows what source it is. But look what he's created.
Yeah,
he's created something that has revolutionized the world.
That's right.
He is.
He's brought PCs down to the level where the average person...
In my estimation, Bill Gates should be given an award. He should not be. It is so absurd to see Bill Gates being attacked for his success. It makes no sense.
And not only attacked, one of the problems I have with the whole Gates scenario is that he's not only attacked by the public or the media as such, he's even attacked by other businessmen. So let's talk about this issue. I think businessmen who are trying to be, quote, pragmatic. What about pragmatic businessmen? Let's just talk about that.
Well, unfortunately, one of the problems with a lot of business people is they think of themselves as pragmatic in the popular sense of the term.
Right.
That they are just going to do what works. Unfortunately, they don't realize the absolute value of holding to their principles.
Right.
What happens with something like any time a business person comes under fire, or I'll give you one example, when the Clintons wanted to pass their health care.
Right.
There were a lot of business people who all of a sudden said, well, we believe in the government's right to do this, or we believe that there should be a national health care. And as soon as they got that out of their mouth, what they were doing is they were conceding on principle. And by doing that, luckily, and not enough of them What saved the healthcare were the small business people who said, heck no, I'm not
giving up.
I'm not going to give up. This is against everything I believe in.
Right.
So I think there's more pragmatism in the big business sector because of a variety of reasons. The small business people and the medium-sized business people of this country and the world are what's going to save us.
Right. They're the ones who know what it takes.
They know what it takes. They're
effort.
immediately involved in it. They're creating their own wealth right now. They're not part of a. There's nothing wrong with large corporations or people who work for large corporations, but a small or medium-sized business person has an immediate stake. They know what it took to get there, and they're not going to lose it.
Right.
And they understand. They're beginning to understand the power of asserting their fundamental right to their business, to their wealth,
To their
because they earned it.
profits. Yeah.
Just like anyone who earns their money.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Now, when I was a kid, I often had this view of businessmen as being the one who stands on the top of the pyramid and who puts a minimum of effort and has his workers being exploited, and he puts the money in his pocket. But it's funny because now I think more that's a bureaucrat instead of a businessman. Can we distinguish between the two, between a businessman and a bureaucrat?
Well, if by a bureaucrat, and I don't want to degrade anybody who happens to have a job, they may consider themselves a bureaucrat. The individual people who do those jobs aren't necessarily bad, but a bureaucrat, if it's let's say it's a bureaucrat in a government regulatory agency. I mean, all they do, they're not creating wealth. What they're doing is they're using the force of government to enforce regulations. They're focused on fear.
Right.
A business person is focused on creating wealth, creating value.
Right.
It's total opposite. Now, in any large organization, there may be people we call bureaucrats, but you know, it's a term that means a lot of things to a lot of people. But bureaucracy itself is especially in government bureaucracy, if I can say it properly, is not a positive force in my estimation.
Right.
It checks, it holds back the productive powers of those who want to get going.
Okay. You're watching The Voice of Reason. My name is Robert Begley. This program can be seen every other Thursday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. on Channel 34. If you have comments, you can write to us at P.O. Box 1978, New York 10009. And my guest is Ken West, who's a businessman. We are talking about the idea of businessmen. We're trying to clarify some issues. And Ken is, as well as being a businessman, he's the president of the Association of Objectivist Businessmen, which puts out this journal, which is called AOB News. And you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah,
Ken?
I'd love to. This is our first bi-monthly issue, by the way. We come out every 2 months. This is a 16-page newsletter. And what's in it are news items, things that you will not read anywhere else, from people, small, medium-sized business people from all across the country and actually the world. And we have, could I just mention a few
Yes,
things that are in there, for instance, if you wouldn't mind, let me just take a look. I mean, we have an article on appeasing the trust busters, and this article actually is about Bill Gates and
right, yeah.
and various other things. We have a businesswoman who wrote an open letter to Newt Gingrich that is one of the most powerful letters I've ever read, and it's a letter that tells the Republicans, who I support in their economic thrust, but this idea of getting
Bringing the
into
church
the
in.
religion and getting into our bedrooms. She sets them straight in this open letter.
Right.
It's tremendous. So it's full of news items, full of articles. I have an article in here called "Who Stole Customer Service,"
Right.
which is really
Practical article, too.
well, it's practical, but it focuses on how customer service has been degraded by people thinking it's just one-sided. I won't go into that, but there's a lot of stuff in here. If anybody's interested, could I give them
Yes,
a
you
number?
can say that.
You can. I hope this plug is okay, but you can write to P.O. Box 370, Beverly, Mass. 01915, or you can call 508-922-4381. And that's the AOB offices. If you're interested in finding out more about this, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, or you can just contact us here at the Voice of Reason. Now, one vice that's prevalent in our culture is racism. I once read an article that was titled "Capitalism, the Cure for Racism." Can we try and summarize what that means and maybe clarify?
Well, without summarizing the article, that article was by George Reisman,
That's
the
right.
economist. Very good article, but let me give you from my vantage point. Capitalism is the exact opposite of racism. I remember taking history courses when I went back to school. I went to school nights. And there were many professors, Marxist professors, who were trying to make the case that capitalism actually was responsible for slavery. And I said, capitalism, real capitalism focuses on the individual, what that individual can create, what that individual does. It doesn't matter if that individual is white or black, or man, woman. It makes no difference. What makes a difference is what they do.
Competence.
And
or
capitalism
ability.
is a system that allows people the freedom to choose their purpose. It allows them to take actions in the marketplace, to negotiate, to trade, and then it allows them to either take a profit or a loss. Now, one of the key factors is it allows them, it doesn't guarantee they're going to be successful. But it's, in my estimation, it's the exact opposite of racism because it focuses on individuals. It does not have anything to say about groups of
A
people.
collective or...
Collectives, no, because individuals create wealth.
Right.
Individuals are the ones who think.
And it's also not deterministic because, again, everybody's an individual and they have their own free will to act upon that. Even historically, if you look, it was the capitalist North which wiped out slavery that existed in the South.
Now, what happened, just very quickly in this country, where we had, and it is something that we have to face head on. It was not, it couldn't survive in a capitalist country because it didn't treat individuals as active agents for their own, they didn't own themselves. One of the things capitalism says is you own yourself.
Right.
No
You're
one,
not a
no one
commodity
else.
like the way
No one else has the right to control your life. And the two could not survive together.
Right.
And it took too long to get out of this country, but as far as racism, and I know that continues, the cure is capitalism. But unfortunately, many people just don't understand the nature of it.
What that means. Well, are we, would you say we are a capitalist society?
That is the question
Everyone
of the day.
else says we are.
Well, we have a mixture right now, Robert. We are a combination of capitalism and socialism. Basically, what that means is we are a combination of freedom and controls. The combination will not last forever because any time government gets on more power, as we all know, government wants more and more power. And if you allow them to control one aspect of the economy, the tendency is to control more. So right now, we're not a full capitalist society. If we were, I think first of all, we wouldn't have a national debt.
Right.
We would, I don't think we'd even have the unemployment that we have right now. There are people who are prevented from starting businesses in certain areas because of all kinds of laws.
Restrictions.
Restrictions, zoning laws, the whole variety from local all the way up to national.
I think it would be better to term it a mixed economy welfare state. I think that's
Yeah,
what
you
we
know,
are right
what's
now.
unfortunate is welfare, it's the exact opposite of welfare. You don't, if welfare, the true welfare of people was the goal.
Right.
You get rid of welfare. Welfare is taking the productive wealth of this country and focusing on, it's one thing to help people. And I think individually, or there is nothing wrong with helping people, and that's a noble thing. Help somebody when they need help. I think it's a very good thing, but to take away productive
Forcibly
wealth,
help someone.
and it ends up diminishing other parts of the government that we need. We need police, we need fire departments, we need the infrastructure of government that allows for basic law and order. And welfare state has taken away funds and prevented. We talk about crime. I won't go off on a tangent here, but the.
Okay.
let me stop myself, and you keep
I can
asking
tell you
more.
firsthand. I didn't grow up personally on welfare, but close to it, we did have government help, and there's nothing that's more guilt imposing for a person. You feel like you're not fit for life. That you have to depend on other people
Yeah.
to give you some kind of financial.
Well, I'll give you one quick example. I was the recipient one time, without realizing it, of affirmative action. Now you think, well, here I'm a white man, why would they? Well, I was working for Harvard University. I applied for a job at a place at Harvard. This was before I went into my own business. And they had me check off, are you this, are you that? And I was a Vietnam veteran.
Right.
So I checked off the box, Vietnam veteran. Well, I found out later they hired me because I was a Vietnam veteran. They didn't hire me because of
Your ability.
they wanted a Vietnam veteran to fill a slot, and I thought that was terrible. I felt somehow it wasn't a good feeling.
Okay, I want to talk about next this one issue which bothers me to no end. The idea that, let me give you an example to illustrate my point. Michael Jordan. I derived tremendous amount of pleasure, I used to, when he was the greatest basketball player alive, just watching him play.
Yeah.
Okay? Same as
So do
other
I.
athletes. Now we have impounded in us, even Bill Gates. For instance, Bill Gates was on a TV show a couple of weeks ago where Tom Brokaw asked him, when do you think you'll feel ready to give back to charity? And Gates, without even batting an eye, said, well, I plan to in the future. I already give tremendous amounts, as if that justifies their success, that if you're successful in life, you have to not be recognized for your success, not for creating wealth, but for giving it away. And personally, that's something that bothers me.
Are you talking about this notion of giving back as well?
Yes, giving back, right.
You know, this is one of my pet peeves, because giving back has a false premise behind it. This idea of, well, I'm going to start giving back to my community. There's certainly nothing wrong with helping your community, but the premise of giving back is, I got my wealth, I took it somehow from the community.
Right.
What really happened is, we'll take Gates for example. He created a software company. He created he created the computer revolution. He created all types of wealth. He did not take that from anybody. That was something that he developed. He hired people.
Right.
The only money, and when we
user.
spend our money, or when you watch Michael Jordan and you spend your money going to a basketball game or getting cable television, you get tremendous value from him, because you
Right, the pleasure
you
I
get
derive
pleasure, joy.
is right there in that which I benefit from.
And the idea of giving back, it doesn't make sense. What can you give back? If anything is going to be given back, perhaps maybe the government should start giving back some of the excess taxes they're taking from us. But that's another story. Maybe the next show.
Right, maybe. Okay, you're watching The Voice of Reason. My name is Robert Begley, and my guest is Ken West. We're talking about the idea of businessmen. We're legitimizing businessmen and defending them. I think in all of history, there has not been a better defender of businessmen than Ayn Rand. Do you want to just say a couple of words about Ayn Rand as far as...
Ayn Rand is an author, a writer, philosopher that has moved me and moved many people. And what she did, the only philosopher, I remember taking a philosophy class where they said there were no women philosophers, great women philosophers. They obviously hadn't read Ayn Rand, because Ayn Rand gave capitalism the moral legitimacy. Not that it didn't have it to begin with, but she articulated it.
That's right.
She said, you are moral. It is perfectly moral to achieve the best that you can in life. You own your life. Anything you create in this life is yours. To do with as you please. So she gave a moral basis to capitalism that an economist, for instance, there are great economists, Ludwig von Mises and others, but they focused on a higher realm. She went right down to the base and said, capitalism is a moral system.
The only moral system.
The only moral system. And that was the first time, to my knowledge, it's ever been stated so well. And she has, of course, Atlas Shrugged, which I'm sure you've talked about,
Right.
and The Fountainhead, that if anyone of your viewers has never read Atlas Shrugged, the book can literally change your whole thinking.
We just did a show.
Okay, all right.
And yes, again, I recommend it. I always have a copy on my desk.
Could I give you one concrete example very
Yes,
quickly?
sure.
Ken Iverson of Nucor Corporation. Nucor is a
The steel
company.
right.
Ken Iverson is very a very able business person, and he came under fire recently because the members of his board, he has a 5-member board, they were all steel people he's worked with. They happen to be all white, but that was, so someone on his board said, well, let's, that's not right. And he said, well, I'm not.
Oh, let's mix it up.
Let's mix it up. And he said, well, wait a minute. These people, these are the people I've worked with. We've developed this steel company. I don't think this is right. Well, his stockholders just voted down that proposal. And it's not that you shouldn't have individuals on your board, but color or race has nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. But we asked him, we sent a letter to him and asked him if he had read Atlas Shrugged. And he said, yes, I read it in college, and I read it once again. And he said, I'm going to read it again.
Oh, boy,
because nowadays you need that anchoring.
Extra,
yeah.
Right, the moral ground.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one of the things I like about the Association of Objectivist Businessmen. One of their functions is to find successful businessmen who might be sympathetic to capitalism, to Ayn Rand's idea, to a legitimate defense of capitalism, moral defense of capitalism.
Yep.
Instead of knocking down the people that we normally see in everyday headlines, AOB ends up pursuing these people and rewarding them, because I'm sure it's nice for him to get to be defended, to have someone on his side, because predominantly you have people against you whenever you come into contact with the media.
Yeah. Well, one of the principles of objectivism is it's more important to reward the good.
That's right.
Than to punish the bad. Even though punish the bad is certainly, you need to fight evil.
Virtue of justice.
Reward the good. So yes. I think if you see someone doing something of value, tell them, buy their product.
Well, Ken, time is flown by so fast that I just want to thank you for being on the program.
You're very welcome, Robert.
I'm Robert Begley.
Okay.
Okay. Apparently, no. We do have some more time.
Good. We have more time. Excellent. Okay. Fire away.
Actually, maybe one last thing we can finish the program, and that is this Marxist idea of the zero-sum game. Yeah. We've touched upon. We haven't named it, but why is that the case? Why is that so prevalent?
Well, it's been taught in the colleges. I meant the idea of a zero sum where one person's benefit is another person's loss. It's false. It doesn't take into account the creation of wealth. And that's why people are confused about business people. They actually create wealth. Right. This is the only country, as Ayn Rand mentioned, that came up with the term to make money.
To make money,
as opposed to take money. And the whole, it's a faulty economic pie syndrome, I call, but it's false.
Totally false. Yeah. Okay. Thank you again, Ken, for being a guest on the program. My name is Robert Begley. You're watching The Voice of Reason. My guest, Ken West, is also a speaker, and perhaps down the road we'll have an episode on him speaking. But if you have comments, write to us at P.O. Box 1978, New York, New York 10009, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, not bad. Okay, I hope it seems to go well.
That's the board. And okay, then I finish. A little reason goes a long way. I hold up, the sign, right? Then you cut to camera 2, right, which is going to be on me. Then as soon as I say my... Good evening. My name is Robert Begley, and welcome to The Voice of Reason. This program can be seen every other Thursday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. on Channel 34. Throughout the ages, there have been men and women who have taken first steps down new roads, armed with nothing but their own vision.